or someone would ask me the other day, she's like, what are you going to do when you actually find someone really similar to you? Would you get along? I was like, gosh, no, no way.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to another shower thought. All right, Sam, how would you describe the past year of your life in one sentence?
Hang on. The, the past year of my life in one sentence.
Yeah, one sentence. Think about
Thank
it
you,
for a bit.
first of all. Thank you. I will, I will break this one up as best as I can, but I'll tell you what, this is an on the spot one. So I guess it would have to be revolving around, I guess, discovering and learning a lot more
hmm
from where I was a year ago. I guess I'm a very, very different person. I was just back from America, um, and I would say a lot has changed along the way. But where has the change come from? I guess I don't know. I guess that's what the point of the question is, isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess any good sentence would have to start with a good with a good little intro here. I don't know. I feel like the more I've kind of got along with this year, the more the world's gotten a little bit crazier. It's just gotten a little bit. It's gotten a little bit funny for some reason,
oh mate.
and I guess a way you could almost coin it is like discovering that the world is kind of full of chaos. Really, I think that would be
Mm.
a pretty defining part of this year. So I guess I think I've discovered that there's a lot of chaos out there in the world, but I think that I've picked that up through diving quite deep into learning about, I guess, myself and how I respond to things in the world, but also I guess from a lot more reflecting on particular things that have happened in the past and things that might happen in the future, and understanding my own perspective on them. So I think if I had to pick one sentence, it would be um, discovering the chaos of the world that we find ourselves in by diving into the deep end of learning and reflecting.
That's a whole meal. We gotta unpack that.
Yeah, I guess it is. There is a lot to fit that zinger.
Yeah. But you know what? Even you saying that, and obviously me knowing you and knowing you forever almost, I think that's pretty spot on.
Yeah, and I guess it's not an easy thing to do, putting a whole year into one sentence. But I guess that would be like a pretty good underlying principle
Yeah.
of all the things that we've done, that I've done along this year too. And I guess it forms a good little foundation to be able to actually, be like, okay, cool, I did this because I was learning a lot more. I did this because I was doing lots more reflecting. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you had to ask me this question again, it probably would have a totally different answer. But I think that underlying principle would probably be the same.
Yeah. And so, a lot of people discover the chaos of the world and we all had different adverse reactions to it, but you had decided to dive deep into the unknown. What does that mean, diving deep into the unknown?
Um, I guess it's kind of like the way I could probably describe it pretty easy. It's like a little door and it's shut. You don't know if it's locked. You don't know what's on the other side. You have no idea what's on that, what this door even does. Does it open? Is it just glued there? I don't know. And then you kind of start like fiddling around with a little bit more, and then you're like, oh, it's not locked. And you realize it's really hard to turn, like it's all rusty. Eventually, kind of eke it open, and then you kind of, it takes a lot of time to get this thing open. Then you kind of get a little peek into the back side of this door. Then you kind of start seeing, like, I guess you get a different idea of a better perspective. You get to see both sides of the door, just by having a look and seeing like, okay, cool, there's something else over there. And you kind of start to open it a little bit more, you start to, learn a little bit more. And then you realize like, holy shit, there's so much else. It's not just this kind of one, you know, plainer line of living that we've really had. There's so much more out there in terms of, yeah, there's so much stuff out there in the rest of the world, but there's a pretty crazy place inside you if you can start to tap into it. It's one of the most interesting things that I've done easily is,
Mm.
starting to, instead of looking out to the rest of the world to entertain me and, make me better, kind of, you inflect a little bit and you look more in towards yourself and you realize that there's this whole crazy world that we don't really get taught to look into. And it's been a pretty fun journey. Like, you got to be there along the way. We both got to kind of take the steps down this looking into the inner workings of ourselves together, which was a pretty fun thing.
Pretty
And
fun, but daunting at first,
yeah, man, like
and quite exposing.
like the thing is, like, once you start to peek through that door, you got that little slit. Yeah, you could probably close it back up, but you always know what's there.
Mm.
You always know what's hiding on the other side of that door. And
You've
then
caught
there's going
little
to be that yearning.
glimpses, little
Yeah, man. Like
shadows, and you're interested.
I find there's always that yearning to actually try and figure it out and learn where it all fits. But yeah, like you said, like it can be pretty daunting. Like, if you start looking into yourself, you're going to start to question things you've done before. And then it's a hard reality to face when, I know I've struggled with it in terms of looking back on things being like, oh man, like I can't, you know, I did this because of X and Y. Like what a silly thing to do.
Mm.
You can look back on past decisions that you made and you kind of realize all the negative impacts that it's had, but that was what you believed was right at the time. And yeah, like I don't know, you start to see the clockwork behind what makes the world tick. And I guess there's been some good parts and some bad parts about that too. You start to realize that we can live a whole life of just being like a mindless sheep, just going through the set routine that other people that makes other people happy, makes other people achieve what they set out to do is by keeping other people in line and just not really, opening the door. Like I think that's how the world works. If everyone opened the door, man, I think the world would be a totally different place. But like there's so much opportunity to be gained from a little bit of effort in terms of looking a little bit more. And one of the big positives that I found for me is, this tangible world around us. Like someone's created everything around you. Like humans have this incredible untapped potential of efficiency and productivity and getting stuff done that they care about, that they're passionate for. And if you can find that, you can harness that, you all of a sudden have this I don't know, this amazing type of fuel that you've thrown in your engine that doesn't burn out. And then
Mm.
you just keep going, and you all of a sudden you start rolling with the punches, and all of a sudden you're like, man, this is so much fun. Like I can control this world around me, and I can be the one to create the next amazing thing. And I think in doing that, you kind of look back in your life and you're like, oh man, like, there's so much that I haven't done. I've wasted so much time. There's so much more to do, as opposed to just sitting around twiddling our thumbs and, being a cog in the machine that is, the world that we have today. Like we're a blip in the universe. Like, why waste that blip? Make the most of every single day, you know? And these are all things that I think have come from a year of actually looking into, the processes that make me decide to do a particular thing in terms of another thing. Man,
Mm.
I'm a good rambler. That's another thing I've learned from this year. I've
Mate, it sounded like
definitely
you needed to
worked.
get that off your chest. That was a good solo there. And it's what you were saying there is so, you know what I found very interesting? That bit where you said like you're a blimp, so why not do as much as you can? I've seen a lot of people with the opposite attitude. It's like, oh, I'm a blimp, so what's the point? Like what does it matter? Like this won't be remembered. This is all pointless. So it's I like that perspective more because we're here anyway, so might as well make the most of it.
You have nothing to lose. If you're not doing things that challenge you every day, like, are you really living, or are you just existing all the time?
Throwback.
Yeah, it's a bit of a throwback. But I don't know, if you're not getting out into the world and doing things that make you uncomfortable, then you could essentially deem yourself as just a part of the system, and that's fine. People can be so happy and comfortable with that. But the more that this year seems to unfold, the more I'm just like, I don't know, that just doesn't really fit very well with me. Like I just always I like doing things. And I think learning about ourselves gave us a lot of opportunity to be able to actually challenge some notions that we've had in the past. And that in itself is a hard challenge. It takes a lot of mental fortitude and I think analyzing and planning and then executing a plan to actually be able to practice these things.
So
And
what for people listening out there, and what tools and instruments have you used to help learn about yourself?
I guess there'll be three main things. And these have all like slowly but surely been added over time. Number one was easily reading. Like reading is something that I always viewed as pointless. I hated reading. Like
Mm,
pretty much up until maybe 2 years ago, I would like in HSC or like high school when you had to do all those exams in English on books.
yeah, they were pretty
I never
dry.
read a single one. I never read them. Like I always just used, online, like little book summaries, and I just took the easy way because I disliked reading so much. It was almost like I didn't like doing it because someone else was telling me, right, you got to read this book. You got to read it for this purpose. You got to learn about these things you don't care about. And like I got through, I did all right in school because I didn't learn how to read. I learned how to give an answer. And it wasn't reading that sat very well with me. So I think being able to start looking into it yourself and start to read things that are interesting to you for the sake of actually learning things that are important to you was like a whole like perspective shift. All of a sudden I was like, oh man, I can't stop reading. I read every day now because I think there's just this this whole library of someone's perspective on how
Mm,
something works. And
reading
you
is
can
like,
absorb little bits of that, and then you can go and read the next book and then absorb little bits of that. And you get to
yeah,
make your own one. Like you're not told this is the answer you got to come up with and you're going to get graded on it. You get to read for the purpose of expanding your horizon and your perspective on the world.
reading
I
has
think
been the most powerful tool to date in the world of passing down knowledge. If you look at any sort of society, they all sort of had some sort of scripture, some sort of way of writing things down and then reading and analyzing and passing that on to the next generation. And that's how, knowledge is passed. And that's essentially how I view reading. It is
mm,
so crucial. And that could be reading anything. Like I started off reading, our reading's always kind of been something I've done, but then in different waves. But like fantasy books, that's also really interesting just because like it expands your creativity. And then obviously we got like the self-help books, which are really nice as you learn like different tools and techniques you can use in your life.
mm.
And just I love autobiographies too of people like that I sort of admire before, and like learning about their story. It's reading is the most motivational thing, I think.
I completely agree. And then I think like coupling reading with starting to do a little bit of writing yourself, I think it's been a game changer. Well, number one, I was never a very good communicator, and now you can put me in front of anyone, and I can talk until I've exhausted my vocal cords, voice box.
Voice
You know what I
box.
mean. And yeah, I think number two of my list of my three things that work, I think are good for me is this is a hard thing to do. I'll give this to people. This is not an easy thing to do. Is to start journaling. This has been something I've struggled with for a long time. Like I realized I've been journaling for a bit longer than I guess 2 years now because I was crap at it. I would I found it really comforting to reflect on something and just write down just try and get down all these kind of crazy thoughts in your head and put them on paper so you could rationalize them a little bit more. And eventually as I've kind of got better and better, like it's now I've got my little system set up that I know I do every single day. And then, it just allows me to have a little bit more clarity on things that go on. And like, oh, I mean, this is one of those things like, the classic playground guys school mentality, journaling. The heck's
Mm.
that? Like, who would want to write in their spare time? Now, like journaling has been one of the biggest tools for me to be able to actually figure out how my brain works and what it likes to do, what it doesn't like to do. And I would I would challenge any guy who thinks he's too big for journaling to give it a go. It'll be one of the hardest things you've ever done. Easy.
Challenges you. If you're listening out there, you've been challenged.
Mm. And I guess the third thing for me would easily be, I don't know, I don't really like if I like calling it meditation. I think meditation is a bit of an obscure term in terms of there's a lot of preconceived ideas when you're meditating. You're just sitting there in silence with your hands curled up, doing these ones. And
Mm.
I just don't think the word fits very well. I think it's just mindfulness time.
Yeah, just call it mindfulness, I reckon.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the term mindfulness because it seems to encompass what you're doing a lot better. And yeah, there's a couple of different ways that I like doing, I guess, mindfulness training, and they've evolved over time. Like there's a set thing that I'll do every day now. Like, stacked up all three of those things: reading, journaling, and mindfulness, and that forms the beginning of every one of my day, and occasionally the end on those hard days. And that has probably been my tools for getting there.
Mm. Can you see, like, even the order you said that, I can see a whole process of learning from that. Reading, you're finding out all these different experiences, all this information, data coming through. And then journaling, you're sort of synthesizing that, like you're writing this all down, like scrambling it down. And then mindfulness is you're allowing your mind to just be peaceful and really analyze and pick out from what you scribbled down in your journaling to what is most impactful for you, and that pushes you to some sort of change. The three-step
Yeah,
process.
I think that's pretty much spot on. And I can't stress enough, like if like this is a process built over time and practice. And what works for me, I would say most likely wouldn't work for anybody else because it's such an individual journey. So I think this stuff is so hard to teach and doesn't get taught because it's such a challenge. Like everyone is so different. But if you don't take that first step on that journey and start, trying to figure out how you work, then you're never going to start. And then, yeah, the first step might feel uncomfortable, might feel weird. You might feel like the most pathetic thing you've ever done. But that's just a perspective you've held on something before. And if you open your mind up a little bit more and start, gathering other ideas, then all of a sudden you start to realize like you can change how you view something from here and look at it from the other side. And all of a sudden from here, you've seen all the barriers. From here, you miss them all. You kind of skip them. You get to the chance to see the other side of it, be like, oh, cool, these are all the opportunities that are there. And learning does that. Learning gives you the capacity to take from here and gives you a 360 view of something because you've acquired all the knowledge to be able to look at it from different angles. And I think that's what young people don't do.
Spot on, man. There's, I don't know what it is, but like in high school, we're learning, but maybe we could argue that we're not learning what we technically want to be doing, but you still learn. But and then that period after high school, and then even uni, you're kind of learning, but like it's not so strong. But and then it just fizzles out like that learning your own sort of curious things, like learning about things that like how the world works, why I do this, why that is, like just learning obscure things. That sort of stops at one stage in our lives. I'm not sure
Mm.
why. Oh, it stopped in my life, and like I just sort of like started learning uni, and that was kind of my only learning. But yeah, there's like more lately. It's just been and reading a lot, especially like Nelson Mandela. Like he really like just cemented the power of education for me, like how he was able to just change essentially the world and his circumstances just from continued education and learning. And it just shows me that like I think like this might be a bit of a controversial thing, but I reckon the day you stop learning completely is the day you stop living.
I reckon that's the day you die.
Yeah.
The day you decide that you're happy with, the world around you, and like that's it. You're not ready to expand your horizon. You're digging your own grave.
Mm. And that's not like saying like, oh, go out and learn this incredible Pythagoras theorem or some bullshit like that. It's just like, just that 1% every day, just try to learn and improve. Like, even if it's, I don't know, just something basic, like you say you're running, just like learn to run a bit better, learn to draw a bit better, learn to cook a bit better. Like it's just
learn learn to sleep a bit better. Like,
yeah,
you know, there's so many things. Like just work on one, you know, and I guess it's hard because then by saying work on one thing, you make it a tangible thing. Like it can just be the idea of wanting to seek more. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be a tangible thing that you change. It can just be more of a non-tangible thing where you just decide, you know what, today I'm going to try and learn a different lesson from this world. You know, I'm going to try and absorb something else that maybe I didn't know. You know, this, yeah, it's a hard one, and I don't think we have a good phrase for that yet.
not yet. But
Not
stay
yet.
stay tuned. We'll have the phrase as we
Well, I
learn,
guess,
as we
yeah.
continue to learn.
To summarize my sentence, my one sentence defining my year, it would be discovering. I think this is what it was. It was discovering the chaos of the world by diving into the deep unknown through learning and reflecting, if my memory serves me correct.
Yeah, I think it was something like that, and that's
Well, good question.
that's spot on, mate. Thank you for that.
That's all right. I
All
feel
right.
like that's one we could yap about for a long time.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to this one
Yeah.
in a different shape. But I hope everyone out there enjoyed listening to this because I think it's something close both to our hearts, especially
Hmm.
this present moment in our life. And I can see for the foreseeable future that this is sort of the way we're going to be, our message.
And you know, what's to stop us next? You know, it's a
Nothing.
crazy thought, isn't it? 1% every day. The that compounded interest is an immense thing to start to realize.
Bloody
Well,
earth.
thanks very much, everyone.